Let's start over now. Alright, so what I'm trying to do over here is to install certificate and also to show you situation when certificates can be applied. Okay, what I've done up on the certificate authority here is to create a certificate that can be leveraged. So I have certificate authority here, and we've created a template. The template was created from a web server, right? So the certificate was created from a web server template. We modify it and we call it ADFS. Really, the whole idea of ADFS is just for me to give it a name that suits me. Where did I get it from? I got it from clicking manage. And when I click manage, it populates and show me all available templates that I have. Okay? If I was using this one for code signing, I will have just selected this and customize it. Okay? If I want to use this one for, say, domain controller agent or directory email, I will have used something like this and customize it. If I want to use it for IPsec, I will have used this and customize it. But in this case, it's for web server, because my ADFS is going to have a web front. So I'm using this because this is often used when you are trying to log on to a web-based resources. So instead of you logging on, instead of having a separate credential, you're just using ADFS. ADFS is a guy that stands in the middle and just take your credential and help you pass it over. Instead of using your password and your user account, you may set up something like a token. So let me do this and I will explain to you. So we created this. I wanted to just remember how we got to this point. Alright? And we've given people permissions to this. If you remember that earlier on we set up some sort of permission that allow, let me see if I can show it to you again. We set up a permission at the template level, right? So we'll call it under server, under security here. See, I have to give this system, access to the, certificate so that they can auto enroll. So let me go now to the system here without wasting much time. To do that, just going to come over here and run my MMC. MMC stands for Microsoft Management Console. This part of the video is still online, so you can watch that. And I'm going to select certificate here for my computer. Go to next here. I'm going to click OK. So here I have my certificate. I do not have anything more or less my personal certificate. Here are a bunch of certificates that I trusted for the publishers, my enterprise trust, and this is my trusted root certificate. I can see them over here. It's a bunch of them. Now there are two ways to view this. You can select this and generally go to all tasks. Actually go to I'm going to show you here. Right click this now, okay, and go to view and go to view options, and on the option select certificate purposes. And what you will see here are all kinds of certificates that we have here. You can look at this and see what certificate you have here. Reverse leak signer, KDC, any purpose, and so on and so forth. Okay? It essentially shows you certificate, their purposes. Server authentication, client authentication, code signing, secure email, time stamping. These are a list of things you could do with certificate. It's like your driver's license. I can use my driver's license to buy some food item. I can use my driver's license to obtain insurance. I can use my driver's license to do so many things, right? So I'm going to go back to the view that I had before and go to over here, and I'm going to, what I really want to show you here is to allow you to see that a lot of the stuff that you're looking at over here is really not a big deal. Go to options here again, and I'm going to go to logical certificate store. So this is just showing you the purpose of the certificate. This is showing you where they are logically stored. So I go back over here, and we're going to go back to where we were before now. Okay, right click this, and here I'm going to do something here that I think you really want to see. Request new certificate. Okay, request it, and here I have my Active Directory enrollment policy. You remember we set up a policy earlier on by issuing certificate to install, and I go to next here, and one of the things that I want to make sure that I properly set up here is what certificate I have available here. Something is wrong here because I'm not seeing my ADFS. You understand what I'm saying? Ideally, what I'm supposed to see when I come over here and I go to request new certificate, I should be able to see here my certificate to install. And if you select this and your ADFS doesn't show up, it only means one or two things. Number one, perhaps you do not have, the permission to install it. I'm going to pause this video right now, and I'm going to do some really quick troubleshooting. So going back to my CA now, looking here, I want to see, does this guy have a, permission to look at it? And here's my ADFS. You can only read it. You cannot write or install and enroll it. So I'm going to go to apply here, okay, and go to OK on the template. I'm going to delete this guy off. As a matter of fact, you can delete everything off you want. It's your call. So then I'm going to go over here and say certificate template to issue. My DFS is up here. Now he's back up there. I'm going to go back to ADFS and make sure to see if it's taking effect. So right click, Alt Task, request new certificate, and if it has taken effect, then you should see it here, otherwise you might have to restart. So when you go over here, it should search, and now you see a DFS here now. You see that? Because this guy is authorized to install it, to write to it. Does it make any sense? So go to enroll now, and then succeeded. You understand? Now I have enrolled for the certificate, and if I come over here, now I have it. Proxy.org. You understand what I'm saying? I request for a certificate. Now this guy have a certificate now. This certificate, I can export it if I want to. Okay? You can export the certificate. You can export, copy to file, go, and you can say yes, export private key if you want to. Okay? And you can even password your certificate so that if somebody steals it, they won't take it away. You can call it pass. Go to next. Give it a name. You can save it on the desktop. Let's call it ADFS. Go to next here, and it's set. Now we have a certificate that we've installed on this machine, and there's a certificate here. The key you have over here tells you it's got a private key with it. Next thing is, I'm going to now go ahead and try to install my ADFS. Go next here, and this is my Federation service. See that? And I've told you what we use for our Federation service for. It's mostly for single sign-on. Okay? Among other things, there are other stuff that we can use it for, but for a single sign-on, this becomes relatively very critical. So we'll see how long it takes, but it shouldn't take a long time at all. Within a couple minutes, you should be where you need to be. So looks like we're done here. Then I'm going to go ahead and configure Federation service. Because we've just installed it, we have to configure it just like other stuff. And because this is our first Federation service, we don't have, because you can have like a lot of Federation server if you have a lot of resources, right? Because you don't want one, ADFS getting clogged up with a lot of requests. So you can have a forest, or farm, they call it. So we can go and say, add a Federation server or create the first Federation server in a Federation server farm. Here, this is my first one. Okay? I'm going to use my current user now to go ahead and set it up. And here, certificate. You see that? If I do not have a certificate before, here's where you get stuck. Why? Because this guy needs to have this certificate for authentication purposes. You understand what I'm saying? Because his job is essentially authenticating, saying, I can charge this one, I take this one over here to this other side, right? So he needs to have a certificate for authentication purposes. That's what's going to be his function. We will see later on down the road. And over here, ideally, just being clear now, ideally what we're supposed to do here is to create a service account, a managed service account, okay? Because we don't want this thing to fail every 30 days, right? But precisely what I'm going to do now is to use a regular administrator account. Remember, this ADFS is a service. It's non-interactive. If you use a service account, then these services will be available all the time. Your OS manage the password. You don't have to manage the password. Every 30 days, OS is going to reset your password. So you're good to go. But here, because I'm using my own regular account, not a good practice, a bad practice, but now if I forget, if my password expires and I change my password, then your ADFS service is going to fail. None of your users will be able to check their resources outside of your enterprise. Okay? In our subsequent classes, you're going to see I'm going to actually create a video where I'm going to create a service account, and I'm going to use that service account to install this service. Okay? So I'm going to call this one, let's call this one, what do we call this one? Let's call this, I don't know what we'll call it. Let's call it IT services. It's just the name of our Federation service. Okay? Or we could call it, I don't know. What names do you guys have in mind? You can call it food services. Everybody likes food. Let's go for food services. So now it's asking me to enter, a group service account. So use an existing domain account or group managed service account. Ideally, I'm supposed to use managed service account. If you click this, it's going to show you the details of what you need to do. Essentially, I will need to come over here and then just type add-kds root effective time get date -10. It's going to take 10 hours for this thing to populate, but there's a way around it. Okay? Or I can use this. I can go ahead and use my administrative account. It's not the best practice, right? But once this thing expires, you're kind of toasted. You have to come back again, and people are going to cry. You might get some error message over here. Don't worry about it. So now I've said, okay, then this thing needs database in the background. If you have an existing database, you can specify it. Otherwise, it's going to create its own Express database for you, Microsoft MSQL. And I'm going to say create a database. And with this, I have an ADFS installed. Now, go to next here, requisites are met, configure, and once this is configured, then so it's validating the ASS certificate, right? Who is it validating it with? With DCA. So once this is good, then this is going to be good. A machine restart is required to configure ADFS. That's okay. The ASS certificate subject alternative name do not support hostname, server.adfs. That's okay as well. We're still good to go. Now, if, as we will do later in the class, not this week, probably after the midterm or towards the midterm, is we're going to create a web application proxy. Okay? And it's the web application proxy that talks with this guy. Okay? The web application proxy is going to be the front. So if I have an internal application that I want my employee to use when they are home, right? It is the web application proxy that is going to be the front. Why? Because it's proxying the application you have that is inside. You understand? And you guys are using it. You may not realize that, but you really indeed are using it. I'm going to stop this recording just so the video doesn't get too long. I'll pause it. So if I go over here, now I have all configured, all looking great. Okay? I can go and restart. Yeah, I can go and restart. And essentially, what I get with this is it's a really nice situation whereby now I have a ADFS server all configured. Everybody's happy, but don't forget, gotta restart though. If I don't restart, this becomes a so when this one logs in now, then I should be able to verify if indeed my installation is successful. System is rather slow, but it would populate in a short while. There is stuff I want to look at over here. About my services here. So there's this delay start, and that's just normal. You can start services. Okay, see that? So you can come over and say start services. So that's just totally normal. Because of dependencies for ADFS, sometimes it's got that delay start. So, but if you go ahead and start it, then this red stuff, will go to green. So if you start your machine and you see, ADFS with red, don't freak out. You understand? ADFS by default generally have a delay start. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have to end this class here. Next time we meet in the class, we're going to be configuring a lot of stuff on ADFS, how to use it, and so on and so forth. Right? We'll still talk about the relying party trust, how to add claims, attribute, configuring relying party trust, configuring claim provider trust. These are all the stuff that we're still going to configure a little bit later down the road. Alright? Thank you guys. Don't forget your